Hi, it's Carol from Glass Art Diva. Today I want to talk about hobby cane. It's very similar to lead cane. Lead cane comes in U or H channels. The same with hobby cane, it comes in a U channel, but very much smaller and thinner. And it's used to give your pieces extra strength and stability. And also a place that you can attach your rings to, your hangers to, when you go to hang your piece, and you don't necessarily have a good join or a join in a spot where it would be conducive to put a hanger. So lead cane, hobby cane is good for that. To begin with, I'm working on this Santa, and sorry for all the jumping around here. But I want to go around it and give it extra strength. So what I do is I cut a piece off. I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to go all the way up to this corner here. And so I've kind of roughly gauged how much hobby cane I'm going to use. Now make sure your hobby cane is kind of clean and shiny. Maybe give it a quick once over with some steel wool, because you want it to take to the patina, but also when you go to solder it to your piece, you want to make sure that there's no tarnish so that it would solder nicely to it. So in some cases, some people like to stretch their hobby cane before they put it on their piece. Other people don't. I have a preference that I do like to straighten it out so it's nice and straight, and it'll fit snugly up against your piece. Now when you use lead cane like this, definitely you will have to stretch it, and you'll stretch it using a device like this. And you put your hobby cane in, lift this up, put it in here, and then you can stretch it. And you just take a pair of breaker pliers and give it a gentle tug to stretch it out. Now you can either do it two ways. If it's not a long piece, you can take two pair of pliers each and pull it and stretch it out that way. Or if it's a longer piece, you can get somebody else to help you. They grab one piece of the hobby cane and you grab the other, and then you just pull so it's nice and taut, straight. The other way that I do it is this is nailed to the board. This gizmo thing is nailed to the board, and then I place it on the floor like, okay, and then in this particular case, it's not a real long piece, so most mine are fairly long, but in this case I'm just going to give you an idea of what I do. And I step on this board, and then I just give it a nice gentle tug, release it from the stretcher, and now it's nice and taut and straight. So the next thing I will do is take my lead cutters, and you want to make sure that where you're going to butt it up against is nice and flat. So on one side of your lead cutters there's a flat side, this side is the curved side. So the part that you're going to butt up against here, right in this corner, you're going to want to cut that nice and flat, like so. Now on the other side, if you cut it with the other side, you'll see that it's kind of beveled. So I want the flat piece, and I will put it in here, and I take my hammer and I very gently with the rubber side tap it in nice and snug to your piece. And if you do have difficulties getting it nice and snug, you can like take a fid, push it in like that, so you get the shape that you want to show off in your piece, like so. And then when that's there, like this, what I want to do next is just take a wee bit of flux, my iron, and I just want to touch the solder to the hobby cane so it stays in place. At every join you're going to do this. So I want to double check that this is nice and tight in there. This is nice and flush. And then in here, and again, a little bit of flux. This case, there's enough solder right here, and I'm just going to drag it over because I just want it to touch. I don't want a big lump there. And then I'll just tidy up the bead like such. And the bead here, it's a little big. And you'll continue on doing this. You'll go to the next one. Make sure it's a good fit. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just taking my fit or whatever else, what other tools that you might have to take the shape of your piece. And again, I just kind of drag it over so that now it's just touching the, let's see if I can bring this up to show you. You're just getting, where are we here? Right here. It's just touching, and I'm going to just add a little bit more solder so I can keep the nice round bead, but I don't want to put a lot of solder onto the hobby cane itself. It takes a little bit of practice, but you don't want the hobby cane to have big chunks of solder on it. And you'll continue on like so, pushing that in, then coming around the edge, going up here. And I want to make sure that's really snug. The other thing to remember too is that you are going to make sure that it's even on both sides of your piece. The hobby cane is fitting nicely on both sides. So you'll always have to be conscious of that because sometimes it can slip. So I'm going to push this up. It's really hard to get right angles on your piece. There. And fill it in like this. Now I've already done this piece here. And I've brought it up to here. Now the reason I stop is because it is extremely difficult to turn your hobby cane. You're going this way, and then you want to turn it, and I hope you can see this. How about if I bring it over this way more so? Okay, so what I've done is I've tacked it here. I'm going to tack it. And again, you're just going to touch the hobby cane so that just a little bit of solder is holding it in place. You're going to go around, and this is where I've taken my fid and I've kind of pushed this in a bit, and I've come to this area here. Now, I've already gone ahead and I've done the boots already, but you can't really make a 90-degree turn with hobby cane. So I take it into the corner, and once I fit it, I take my, whoops, now I have to turn this around because you want this flat. That looks about right. And then you fit it inside this corner here with your other piece. It's a little tricky. Just keep working at it. There. And again, making sure that both sides have an even amount of hobby cane on it. And there. And again, a little bit of solder. And in this particular case, I am just going to touch. So both pieces of the hobby cane. This piece and this piece are now joined to the boot. And then I'll just fix up the, that helps if I put solder on, or flux on it. Now that you've done this, it's important that you go ahead and you solder this thin line of foil to the hobby cane. This is why it's important at the beginning that you take your steel wool and give it a good buff, because if it's tarnished, it's going to be really difficult to do that. So what I do is I just run my flux like so, and then I take, maybe if I do it down here you can see it better, and I just run my inside the hobby cane, and it adheres the foil to the hobby cane, so it's not going to move. So I am just going to, and I just quickly go around. My iron is kind of at like a 45 degree, or depending, it could be doing it like this. There's different ways you can do it. It will sink through to the other side sometimes, depending on how well you've got this fitted. And remember that you don't want to spend too much time in one spot with hobby cane, because hobby cane is lead and it will melt. This is how I buy my hobby cane. It's in a big spool. This is from Delphi. It's 5/64 hobby lead, it's called. And when I buy it, it comes in this big spool. There's a lot there, and you don't have to keep running out and getting it in 3 foot lengths is what I think it is. But as I was saying earlier, you don't want to spend a lot of time on your hobby cane and your solder when you're tying it together, because it will melt. If you spend any time, it will melt. Like that. I'll just clean my, so it just melts. So that's why you don't want to spend time. You just quickly want to take your iron and run it down the side. And I actually have it perpendicular to the hobby cane, but try different methods. It's, like I say, you might want to kind of go in like this. You want to make sure your joins are good. And it will slide down in between the hobby cane and the foil if there is any gaps. But you want to go through your whole piece like this. And you will do both sides, not just the front. You will do the back also. So you'll, when you've got this done all the way around, you'll flip it over, flux, and solder it again to this side, so that it's nice and sturdy on there. It also, if I can move this up a bit now, it also gives it a nice finish, I think, when you use the hobby cane, especially on a piece like this. Anyway, that's a little bit about hobby cane. I'll probably touch on it a little bit more on another project. I hope you continue to keep watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe, and have your friends subscribe to it. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.